See. So how we're going to do this, Sky's going to start. He's going to give a short presentation, and then we're going to have some questions for Sky. And then once we complete the questions for Sky, we'll go into a ski school presentation and cover some of the things that were most asked in our questions, things like pay plan and things like that, training, that kind of stuff. And then once we finish our presentations, then there'll be just a general Q&A for ski school. So Sky's going to cover all the Q&A for resort-wide stuff, and I'll do all the Q&A for ski school. All right, so without further ado, here's Sky.
Awesome. I'm gonna. Is that all right, Jacob?
That's good. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all for the time tonight. Really appreciate it. Before I get into anything, I really just first and foremost, particularly for all of you that have been with us, which is most of you for the last 18 months, almost 2 years now. Just a personal and heartfelt thanks for everything that you've done over the last 18 months or so. It has not been, as you all well know, without its challenges, but overall, it's been quite successful under the new metrics that we might use for what we've been dealing with. And one of the things that's always keeps coming to my mind and reminding myself and all of you is, we've pretty much, unlike a lot of businesses, we've pretty much been open throughout the pandemic. We were closed for 3 months, March through sort of mid-June of 2020. But since June of 2020, we've been in operation, and not a lot of places can say that. And there's still offices and many that are not in sort of full operation. So my personal thanks to all of you for everything you've done to help us get through that. It certainly hasn't been easy, and certainly last winter was a significant challenge with a lot of the protocols we had to deal with both on ourselves and our guests. And I really appreciate everything that you all have done. I hope you heard from many of your guests how appreciative they were. I know I heard a lot, both in person and email and phone calls and otherwise, of how appreciative they were of the efforts that we put forth to open. Because as you know, with the exception of last summer when things opened up a little bit more, certainly summer 2020 and to the winter of 2021, there really wasn't much else to do other than recreate outdoors. And we provided that outlet. And for those that don't know the stats, if you haven't, I think I said it in my video presentations, but in the summer of 2020, we put up record bike park visits. We did 57,000 plus or minus visits in the bike park, which was amazing. We had kind of forecasted that might happen since there was a bunch of bike parks closed in Colorado, and we figured we'd be the game in town. And then come winter, we really didn't know what the heck was going to go on. We had a reservation system that we put in late and all that other stuff, but we did just shy of 900,000 visits. And for those that put that in perspective, for those that don't know, we used to do 1,050,000, something like that. So again, we weren't too far off that and really had a very strong second half. And then we came into summer 21 with what's that going to look like? More bike parks opening, more things open. What's going to happen? Lo and behold, we put up another record for bike park visits at 65,000. So, and overall good summer from activities and everything else. So all in all, despite all the pain and suffering that we've all gone through to make it happen, it has happened in a very good way. So again, my thanks to all of you. I'm not going to do much of a presentation because we're in a little bit of a crossover mode. So we just released last week, and I know the vast majority of you have seen it, video things on mission, vision, values, strategies, welcome to winter, and then a little bit of a funny Q&A thing. So I know a bunch of you have watched that. So prior to those being released, I was going through much of that in the presentation, but I'm not going to do that today. But I do just want to hit on mission, vision, values again. Just one, appreciate the feedback from Tony, has carried that on from all of you. As we developed the mission and the vision and the values, it came a lot from feedback from all of you that we hadn't done that. And some of the things that we had out there, we didn't really have a mission. We had what we called a purpose, a venture out. Nobody really understood what that meant, not the venture out part, but what's the purpose? That didn't really resonate. And for many people that have worked in resorts or other businesses, mission made a lot more sense. So, to inspire and welcome everyone to venture out is the mission. And then the vision, again, I won't go through it because many of you have listened to it, but that was another thing that really came from a lot of feedback. We had a statement before that nobody, including myself, could ever remember. Therefore, it wasn't really all that good. Might have been a nice statement, but it wasn't really something we were using and driving forward. And then the final one, again, which I think really created a lot of confusion, was on the values. And so, we are one company of many unique brands building a global mountain community. And one company does have one set of values. So we came back to that in performance, integrity, collaboration, environment, and fun. But because many of our work groups, when we introduced the code 2 years or so ago, many people grasped onto that. We decided we just merge it underneath the value. But at the end of the day, we have one set of values with 4 descriptors underneath that. So hopefully that clarifies a lot of the confusion over the last couple of years on mission, vision, values, and things that we were and weren't doing to provide clarity. So they're out there, they're live. We're going forward with it. And a lot of our, if you've watched the strategies and tactics in the future plan, are driving toward particularly that vision. So that's it for any presentation. If you haven't seen it yet, it's out there on Rise. Each module, there's 4 of them, I think they're roughly 10 or 11 minutes long. We got a lot of good feedback last year. That's the mission, vision, value slide. But we got a lot of good feedback actually last year because we sort of had to do it on video because we couldn't do anything in person last year. So we decided to carry that forward. The feedback was really good, that it was more flexible for people to be able to kind of watch it when it worked for them versus getting everybody in a room. And then this year, what we decided to do, just so you know, is really, I think this is the 14th or 15th one. Tom's been with me on a lot of them that we've done because we really wanted to talk specifically. I did anyways. Really wanted to talk specifically to work groups because questions and comments and feedback are more specific to different work groups than having 350 people sitting in West Portal. And, a lot of people just sort of disengage because they're not interested in the questions that are being asked or the topics. So we've been going around to pretty much every work group over the last two and a half weeks, trying to hit everybody. We've got a few more to do over the next couple of weeks. So there you, I'm not going to go through them all. They're out there. You're going to start to see posters and cards and things coming out that you'll have available to you to just remind us what we're doing.
Great. So if anybody in the audience has questions for Sky, this would be the time to do the resort wide questions. And then we have some questions that were submitted to us that Jacob will read if we don't cover them right now. Does anybody have a question? Give us the questions. Oh, Chris. When did it snow?
You got to answer that question. It was snowing like, so we when the first little span walk started this morning, 10 o'clock, we started cloud seeding for, I think, the shortest time ever for like 15 minutes. So I don't know, this one's going to skip us, it looks like. There's another one coming midweek, but that looks like that one's backing up too. Right now, just prep for cold weather. Keep that snowmaking system going.
In your orientation, you talked a little bit about capital that was occurred this past year. What's kind of on the horizon for major capital items that you're looking at for the next couple?
Sure.
So,
Yeah. So the question was, talked a little bit about capital that we deployed this year, which was predominantly a pump station down the river. And so what's the outlook in the next couple of years? So 2-part answer. One is the broader, which I talked about in the strategy through the broader future plan, and what we're working on there, which is looking from GLOT all the way over to North Bench and all the stuff on the mountain. And that's a much larger plan, probably to the tune, if we get what we're asking for, somewhere between 150 and 200 million dollars. That includes balcony house, all this stuff with some hotels and parking structures and all sorts of stuff in addition to the mountain. So a lot of work yet to do there, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but there's a lot being thought through, and we're in the very early stages. As far as regular capital, so still our three main focuses, because the big focus is parking and accessibility to the resort. We're not going to solve that without doing the bigger plan. So set that one aside. That's sort of number 1 priority. After that, it's basically 3 things: snowmaking, lifts, and food and beverage are the 3 primary things we're after. So the snowmaking side, the ultimate plan is that was, very first phase, the pump station. For those that have seen the clearing now up in Disco Park, that's the future site of a pond. So phase 2 is basically to take the pumping capacity from 2,000 or 2,500, depending on where you are on the mountain, to about 5,000, so basically double. And in that comes a set of pumps, storage pond, and all the way up to sunspots, so we'd have a system that, my view, if we had that this year, we would be skiing from Sunspot right now. So that, along with finishing off some of the pipeline over here, and then ultimately pipeline down Jane Trail and Sleeper. So that's snowmaking. That project's $27 million, something like that. From a lift standpoint, sort of three big priorities. Piles, probably number one. Number two is starting the fixing, if you will, in the Discovery Park area. So adding some carpets up there, things like that. We won't be able to address this. That's part of the longer term plan with the town gondolas. Ultimately, ideally this gets replaced with the gondola, but it'll be part of that future plan. But in talking with Tony and some of the team, we decided, let's not wait. We're figuring out how to get them up there now. It's not great, but we're doing it. But so let's make the area a little bit more useful. So that's sort of number two. And then number three is over on the Jane side. We got to, at some point, we got to do something with the sea lift, the pony, and the iron horse. Don't know what yet, but something there. And then on the food and beverage side, most of our facilities have not had much investment. We were originally, for those that saw a presentation a couple of years ago, we were headed toward Sunspot, given the gondola, given sort of the year round, given the night. But we switched courses as we started this future plan, and it piggybacks a bit with the Discovery Park discussion. Is Snow Oasis is now kind of at the top of the list, along with something over here in the village area on this side of Starbucks, our side, to create some energy. So those are the three primary things, in addition to just general maintenance and all that stuff.
In the big redo in the front with all the parking access and things like that, kind of where is balcony house? Is that kind of in its own, or is it part of the?
It's a great. So the question is, in the bigger plan, where's balcony house relative to parking? I'll just be totally transparent with you. There's a bit of a debate on that right now. I'll tell you where I stand. I think parking should come first and balcony house should come second. There's others that think just the opposite. So we're working our way through the phasing of all this stuff. So I don't know yet, but to me, parking and access is one of our biggest Achilles heels. So it's like if you really want to make a statement like we're changing and we're fixing and we're improving, deal with that. Sure, the balcony house and needs improvement. There's nobody wants to debate that, but you go do that and we still can't access the resort very well. It's like that's just my personal view. There's others that feel completely opposite of me and think that we should do that first. So we'll figure all that out in the phasing as we go through. Thank you.
LG.
We're going to try to run that till it doesn't run anymore. No. No. There's one at June Mountain. It's 1955. It's 11 years older than ours. We got plenty of time. No, so the LG, what the plan on the LG is, for those that don't know, the town gondola plan has three legs to it. So the big leg is from the town hall, basically. It's right across the street. We have a piece of land there. Goes to the top of Cooper Creek North, which is above the LG and the Prospector, that height of land right there. It turns left, comes over to the top of the Gemini, turns left again, comes down here. That's the big grand plan. So the plan is for phase one of that gondola, we would put a new LG in to the top of Cooper Creek North, so that if you want it, because there'll be a ski back trail all the way to town. That's why we got to get to that height of land. So there'll be a new lift. The current plan is the base terminal would be down around somewhere where Buckaroo comes out, so that you'd be able to come off Vasquez Main Mountain and get out, or Vasquez Ridge and get out. And then it would go up to the top of Cooper Creek North with a couple new trails associated with it. So that's the plan. Unless it dies before that. Yeah, then you'd be able to ski from town to there. So you'd either be able to ride the gondola back if you wanted, or you'd be able to ski to town. So those two will likely come together. But if we have issues with the LG, then we'll do that. We'll move it regardless. So when it gets replaced, it's moving over to that alignment.
And for the height of land, you also need to get tender.
That's right. You can go either side.
Go either way. So still works for that. Very cool.
Good.
I think you can say more about timeline there.
I missed the first part.
Pioneer.
Oh, Pioneer. So the question is timeline on Pioneer. It's on the top of the list as far as lifts go from us. There's probably a dozen lifts across the company that are kind of in the same, state, if you will. So I just don't know. My guess right now would be if it's not summer of 22, it's summer of 23. I think within the next 2 years, we'll get that replaced. It's a big expense because when it's not just a straight line replacement. What we're going to do currently anyways, the current plan that we have and submitted to the Forest Service is to put a load terminal at the top of Big Valley. So if you're skiing or riding, because most people don't want to ride over there anymore, getting the flats, you'd actually be able to load and stay on the train and not have to go over to the bottom. So it's about a $12 or $13 million lift with that additional station. So it's expensive, but we feel it's the right thing to do. And hopefully it'll increase the utilization of the Vasquez territory substantially, so you don't have to deal with going all the way down those flats. And then if the LG comes in, you can actually get out versus having to take, the road out at the top. So those two things we hope would substantially increase the utilization of that territory.
The plan for Oasis, renovation or a new building is the.
It's a good question. We're not that far down the road on it yet. I would say originally it was a new building until we started actually kind of doing a little bit more investigation and realizing the original assessment was like the foundation shot. We'll then come out to find out we've actually shored up half of it already. We're like, well, heck, we've done half, we can do the other half. And I think architecturally, if you can take the blinders off of what it is today, so to speak, it's a super cool building with an awesome outside. We're putting this, for those that watch video, we got a new live fire thing going on outside there this year, barbecue kind of setup. So right now, I think we're gearing more toward a renovation, preserve the building and the history and the legacy of it. It's just a super cool building, and I think with the right design team on it, we could really turn it into something cool.
Yeah, I was just hoping you could talk a little more about the money that's been paid and who see as a target audience for these investments. Like, who are the new people that you're trying to bring in to ski? And I do know the summer stuff as well.
So the question is, with the future plan, where's the money targeted to, and what's the target market, right? So as far as the dollars, I don't want to say too much. It's not that I don't want to say too much. We just don't know yet. There's just a lot of stuff that's on the thing. Balcony house replacement, a couple hotels, maybe a summer adventure center, parking structure, in addition to the mountain stuff I talked about. So those are kind of the big things that are in the dollar thing. But we started this in July, so we have blocks of white boxes on a map right now. So more to come when we get there. As far as target audience, we're actually much farther down the road on that. We've actually been working internally because we knew this process. We started this process pre-COVID, and then it got shelved during COVID. So we've been, since last October, almost a year, been working on sort of what is the future market opportunity. That's what drove some of the vision, because it's really that it's not the tagline, but I'm going to use it as tagline now. The guiding thought, let me put it that way. The guiding thought was, what do we need to do to revolutionize the mountain experience for the under 40 crowd? Don't pay attention to the actual age. The point more than anything was, we've got these new younger markets coming that are behaving very differently in a lot of ways than the previous markets. And so when you think about it from a year-round standpoint, but also accessibility to more diverse markets from a ski and ride standpoint, we need to think differently. One of my concerns has been for years, as you all well know, we've done a lot of work over the 20 years, I think, trying to increase participation. A lot of different programs have been tried across the industry to try to drive more skiers and riders into the sport. And quite frankly, none of them have really been successful. I think one of the underlying issues is, I think it's two things. One, because we're so bought into it, we think we can just drag them up here and they're going to be bought into it. And so one of the things, much like we do with Ruby Hill and Barnum Bike Park, is take the experience to them in their home, get them connected, get them excited about it. They'll figure out how to get here. And as an industry, we've kind of taken the opposite approach, which is very difficult. And then the secondary line to that is get people to love winter first, which may be snowplay. Whether it's tubing, whether it's snowshoeing, whether it's building snowmen, whatever it is, get them to love winter, because we really take them out of the city and go, hey, we love it, you're going to love it. And they come up here, and we all know that the first couple of days are, particularly if the wind's blowing and it's 0 degrees out, it's not the most attractive first day, right? So, and then when we think about the year-round side of that is, where does technology play? It's one of the reasons food and beverage, back to the question, is so high on the list, because that has moved way beyond an amenity. it's actually a core experience today for that market. You know, they're not, as I think I said in the presentation, jokingly, they're not as bell to bell as me or some of us that have been, you know, skiing and riding all our lives. They're more like, yeah, I get here at 10 and I want a really nice food experience, and I might be done. That's hard for me to comprehend. So one of the things we've been really trying to do is understand that, given our proximity to the Front Range, given our core destination markets, particularly Houston and Austin, which are kind of up and coming younger demographics. So don't hang on any age. It's not targeted at an age. It's really just to say, what do we got to do to understand these newer markets that are coming now, and how can we be more attractive to those that aren't coming on a year-round basis? Hence the whole venture out, soul-fulfilling experiences that's in the vision. All those things are aimed at trying to grasp people to what we do and get them passionate about being in the mountains. I'm convinced if we can get them to love winter and being in the mountains, getting them to ski and ride is the easy part. We're trying to do it all at one time, and I think it's very difficult. It's a really great question. We spent a lot of time, and we still got more work to do. But we've done a huge research kind of effort on what's important to them, environmental, social. You know, there's a lot of things that weren't as big a priority for us in the past, are much bigger priority when we think about these newer markets. It's a really great question, and open to feedback, you know, that you all have to how we can best do that.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions that came in early. Some of them are kind of the same, so I'll try to consolidate them into one. But, you know, the one that kind of, I think, might be the harder one to speak to because you don't run Alterra, but, you know, OSHA rules might be changing a little bit. And right now there's a bit of a hold on that. And then there's also, you know, some opposition to vaccine mandates that are out there in the world. Do you foresee any changes in the Alterra mask and vaccine policies?
Could everybody hear that online?
I'll type it in if they
Okay.
can. Yeah.
So the question in short is, you know, where do we stand from an Alterra standpoint? So after a lot of back and forth in Alterra, many of us were trying to push for a decision a while ago. Where the company came out, just so you all know, was really went back to the vision statement of one company and many unique brands. So from a value standpoint, we're one company. From a COVID policy standpoint, we're many unique brands. And so they basically came out with very general guidelines, and then allowed the resorts to basically put together their own plan of what they thought, based on culture, what's going on in their region, put their plan together. So that's what we did. We worked hand in hand with Steamboat. Our plan is the same as theirs. We felt it was very important being in the same state and being part of one company that we had the same plan. So as far as changes, I don't foresee right now a change in our vaccination plan. You know, the OSHA rule is out there, but our plan was developed with that in mind, but not because of that necessarily. We knew it was coming, and we knew it would also likely get legal challenges, and who knows when it will actually be green lighted, if ever. But, you know, working with public health officials and, you know, and a lot of other input factors ourselves, some other businesses, is how we developed our vaccination plan. So I do not see that changing at this point in time. But as we've gone through the last 18 months, things change. So anything's possible, but right now we are not considering that. From sort of the protocols, masks, and things like that, we're just watching what's going on in the state. You know, it's for those that have followed the governor's announcement, I think it was on Monday, of, you know, inside groups that are unseated have to be vaccinated with over 500 people. That's kind of new. And so we're just paying attention. I don't think we're going to get anything thrown at us from a county level. I think it'll be state. So vaccination policy likely will stand. Masks and other things, indoor capacities. Right now, you know, we're not going to restrict indoor capacities, and masks will be strongly encouraged, but not required.
So I think you kind of spoke to this already with Richard's question about, you know, where we want to invest our money and getting people up here just for snow play. But somebody did ask, why is the tubing hill using up early season snowmaking when it could be used to open more ski runs?
It goes a little bit to that question. You know, it's I don't know, Tom might know if Tom said that, how many we had a lot of reservations for Thanksgiving for tubing. It's a very popular activity, and so, you know, as we continue to sort of build out the venture out and hit our vision, the breadth of offerings is an important thing, because I really do believe, you know, getting people attracted to winter and snow play is a better step into skiing and riding than just trying to drag them up here. So, but it's also part back to the question too about snowmaking. When, you know, when our snowmaking system gets that capital infusion and gets those kind of production numbers, that'll be a non-issue. That'll be a very limited amount of water that's going over there versus what's going elsewhere.
These ones might be a little easier to answer. Will we be operating the ski train? I mean, yes.
The answer is yes. And just a couple little nuance, or one nuance, it's going to be a week late this year. Normally we would start the first full weekend in January. It's going to be the second full weekend in January. Amtrak just had some labor and scheduling challenges, not relevant to our train, but in the rest of their network, that they needed to push us off a week. We may extend it a week on the other end and go into the first weekend of April. And then the other thing that we did, this would have been because we suspended last year, which would have been our second one-year extension on our 3-year arrangement. We just renegotiated a whole new arrangement. So we're actually in a new multi-year arrangement starting this year. It's the same basic structure, 3 to 3 with a couple of years extension.
Last one is Torchlight Parade on Christmas
Eve.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, we are back in the event business. Yeah, we're excited about that. That one, out of all the events last year, that's the one that hurt the most. To me anyways, personally, but I think to a lot of us. Anything else coming in on chat?
That's it.
Anybody else in the room? The plan is to have a half pipe this year. I don't, you know, depending on what happens with the weather, I don't know when we'll start it. But the plan is to have a half pipe. Now, we're not doing super pipe anymore. It's 18, 19 foot or something like that. So, no super pipe.
There any chance of ever getting documents to go to?
So that, if you didn't hit on it, I think it's the annual question, which is a very fair question. Is restrooms close to Swords Park? I would say the answer to that is yes. But if it's going to come a little bit in this future plan, we've done the research, and you might know the number exactly off the top of your head, but it's multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it now. And one of the concerns we have is if we do that and then we build out the base area, we're just going to rip it down and it'll be north. We also looked at portable restrooms. You know, we had those last year. You know how well those worked? Not very well, because they all froze up. So we've gone through a bunch of different options to try to do something in the short run. We don't believe building something permanent is the right thing, because it was like $500,000. It was a lot of money. And just don't think that's the right thing to do. We'll continue to evaluate options. We had thought a portable one was the right way to go until we had the 4 of them last year, and I think one of them worked all year. So we'll continue to evaluate that. We I certainly understand the need and the importance of it. It's just we're trying to factor it in, particularly now with if we weren't so confident on the future plan happening, I'd probably feel differently. But since that's getting a lot of traction, all the way up to our ownership, I feel more confident that that's going to come along and hopefully we'll deal with it there.
Oh, if that's
Thank you all very much.
all right. Great. So we'll get started with the ski and ride portion of the presentation. The first part of it we'll talk about is the pay plan, because this has been we've got a lot of questions about the pay plan. Let's just put it that way. Wait 1 second.
Sitting wrong, but
Okay. All right, so some pay plan changes. Obviously, the activity rate changed, $15 for everyone. This was hotly debated. There were some people that were not very happy about that change. One of the reasons that we made the change is a couple of years ago, and I guess nobody really noticed, and maybe we should have done a better job of explaining to people, but we stopped. Anytime you teach a lesson now, you're paid your premium rate for the entirety of the lesson. we stopped paying any activity and lessons. Sarah can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was at least last year or the year before, Sarah, 2 years ago. So, nobody really noticed that change, but that's one of the reasons we did it. Another reason is, one of the ideas of the new pay plan was to make the pay plan more egalitarian. So by that, I mean, we want to pay people the same for doing the same things, right? So now for the $15, that's only when you show up, basically. It's when you're in a meeting. And that's about it. There might be some other things, like if we ask you to go shovel or something like that. Generally speaking, I'm not going to ask, one of our higher paid instructors like Tom or Chris to go shovel a walkway. I usually go ask somebody that's making a little less money. And then the no head count for kids groups. We took that away for a couple of reasons. One, I feel like we put that into our pay plan a while ago because our class sizes, and those of you that have been here for a long time, our class sizes were, I guess, a little bit outrageous, right? We had some 6-year-old classes with like 4 kids in it. So we were trying to incentivize people for, I think, our poor behavior, right? We shouldn't have been making classes that large. It wasn't a good guest experience. It wasn't a good employee experience. So we eliminated the head count and replaced it with the hours incentive, right? So the people who are working the most make the most for us. Yeah, and the season bonus, same thing. The hours pay. So now it used to be, and I used to hear this a lot from Chris actually. I worked 800 hours. Do I get any more money? I only get $400, right? Well, now you can make money throughout the season with the hours worked pay, right? Because now I believe the top end of hours worked is $8 or $9 an hour. And Stephanie has run a lot of numbers. Some people, instead of getting $400, will essentially get another $2,400, $2,500 in their pay. So that was why we got rid of that one. Private request rates, no longer a percentage of teaching rate. So this goes back to that egalitarian concept of the pay plan. So, when we have an instructor who is a really high paid instructor who's being paid for their certifications, their years of experience and all that stuff in their base rate, what we were doing before was then rewarding them for all of that stuff again by adding 50% to their thing, right? So some people were making $18+ an hour for every hour they worked of request. Some people were making 6. And we didn't really think that was fair, right? A new hired instructor who is brand new to us, who has the exact same behavior as someone who's been here for a really long time, should be rewarded in a similar way. So right now with the private request rates, you'll see that they tier up as you do more private request hours. So if we have new hires that do 400 hours of request pay, which would be really impressive, then they would be paid the same for that request pay as anyone, essentially. This is another change that we made. Instructors who are not current with their with PSIA are considered uncertified. We used to drop them a level. One of the reasons we made this change is because PSIA doesn't think of them as certified instructors, right? In PSIA's mind, they are uncertified instructors. So this is a way for us to encourage people to stay current, to continue pursuing their development, and it's something that we definitely value here. Okay, so then we get into the teaching rate increases. These are this section here is our pay categories for everything. So uncertified level 1, level 2, level 3, Rocky Mountain trainer, and education staff for PSIA. That was what we were paying in the 2021 season. And on the right is what we're paying for the 21-22 season. So that is the base of each category, but you can see the base has gone up at least 24% in every category. And so this represents one of, or not one of, the absolute largest pay increases in my time at Winter Park. And I don't know if anyone that's been here longer but it's pretty significant. So these are the teaching hour incentive tiers. So 150 to 249, you get $1. And then basically for every 100 hours you work, you get another $1 an hour that you earn on every hour that you teach. And we've gotten a few questions about like, when do I start getting paid, right? So like when I hit my 250th hour, if I'm in the middle of a lesson, do I only get paid one of those hours if it's the last hour of the lesson? Well, the answer is as soon as you tier up, and Sarah can answer this question because she did all the work in RTP, but as soon as you get to 245 hours, if you work a 6-hour lesson, that whole lesson will be paid with the extra $2 an hour. So it actually will pay you more. And then the private request pay 0 to 49 is $9, and then tiers up all the way to $15 an hour for anything 250 hours or more. One of the things I think that people found most confusing about this incentive pay was that these things happen in unison, right? So you can be making $22 an hour every time you teach a private request if you're at 750 hours plus and you're at 250 hours of request.
It's $22 on top of your teaching rate.
Right, and that's $22 on top of your existing base rate.
Okay,
Yes.
you go back to that last slide. So why are there caps? Why at 750 doesn't be like, yeah, at 850 for another number?
It could. Yeah.
No one cares about that question.
Because not really many people got another 100 hours, or we don't have very many people that work 850 or more. So we basically did it based on where most people lie. So that is something, this is one of the great things about this, Chris, is that we can change these things whenever we want, right? So if I go to HR and say, I want to change my pay plan, this stuff is really easy to change, base rates are not, right? I can come in and say, you know what, I want to add another tier, or I want to add 50 cents to each of these things, or whatever, and those approvals happen a lot easier, right? I can come in and say, no, I've got the budget for it, we're going to make up for it in price increases, whatever. Those are really easy to fix. The base rate stuff is a little bit more complicated. So this is a start for us, and we'll look at it and we'll reevaluate it as we go. And the other thing about this is, you know, there's potential that this could change in season. I think you've been here long enough to know that, you know, we used to do like bonuses to try to get people to work more. Well, we can add money to these if we want. If Tom tells me it's good and I can add some money and he's like, yeah, you need more people to work, we need to teach more lessons, then we can adjust these even in season potentially. Yes, Molly.
So you say you can change them in season, I think that would just be an increase, it would not be an increase.
We would not do that, June. Yeah, the question was, would we decrease it? And the answer is no, we don't do that. We won't do that. Jacob, you got a question about
To be clear, that increase is not like retroactive to the hours already worked.
I'm sorry.
That increase is not retroactive to the hours already worked, correct? Like, when you hit 150, you don't get $150 for back pay. You get $1 more for that next hour of work.
Correct. Yes. The question is does it go back to the hours you've already worked? It's all the hours you've worked above 150 hours.
So not much of a bonus to be fell into that.
Correct. Yeah. The idea behind it is to incentivize people to work more for us, essentially.
As a reminder, you would not have earned the bonus last year unless you worked over 300 hours. So there's a lot more of our staff now. Need extra dollars.
So Sarah brought up a very good point, and you probably couldn't hear her if you're following along at home, but if you were working for us last year to see an incentive pay, you would have to have worked 300 plus hours, and here you'll start at 150. So it definitely opens up more for more of the staff to earn.
seems like we're in question.
Yeah, we're already in question mode, but that's all right. Obviously, the pay plan people have a lot of questions. Any other questions about the pay plan? No? All right.
Put the lights on too.
Yeah, flip the lights on too late. Okay, so is that the last one on the pay plan?
We just got some
Okay.
corrections.
Oh, yeah, we made some boo-boos on our RISE training. So we accidentally put $1,900 worth spent on financial support for certification last year. That was a typo. It was $19,000. And one of the things that Jacob pointed out to me, PSI National gives $20,000 approximately in scholarships. So we give almost as much as they do, and their scholarships isn't actual cash out the door. That's product in kind. So I would say that we actually give more in scholarships than the national organization.
Under budget, we even under budget. So we want to actually spend more than that.
Yeah. So Stephanie's saying we actually came in under budget, so we could actually spend, we had more money to spend. Yeah.
Does that mean there'll be an opportunity at some point where we want to take more than one start of the year, and we're going to get both of them maybe one?
Correct. It would be, and Jacob might be a better person to answer this, but it would probably be in a reimbursement rather than, so yeah, well, I guess everybody in here would probably be in reimbursement anyway.
Yeah, so that was something that, Richard actually brought up to me and we thought about it. When we have leftover money, we traditionally have been like, no, let's just not try to give somebody extra because it would seem like special treatment. We're going to wait until the deadlines are met for both financial supports, which I think the last one is the end of February. And if we still have money left over, we will open it up again for people to apply again. That being said, don't put in 2 applications early. That's not going to get you ahead of the line. We'll announce that when it is time.
Great. So the next one, we are actually paid 3 hours, not 2.75 for a lesson that you're out there. Basically, if we ask you to be out there, you're getting paid. So we made a mistake. It's 3 hours for adult group lessons. I think there might have been another question about kids groups, multi-weeks. Yeah. So those are, we'll pay you. It's against the law for us not to pay you, so we'll pay you. Don't worry. That was our mistake in there. Friends and family discount lift vouchers are preloaded on your pass. No promo code this year. That was a kind of a disaster. So that was our mistake. We forgot to update that one. So go to the season pass office to get them printed. There's voucher numbers. I usually just text someone the voucher number. So if you want to find out what the voucher numbers are, our admin team can help you with that too.
Tony, can I interject?
Yeah, of course.
Just another interesting, I just saw it there, I didn't know if they're coming up again, but one big advance we made for the guests, just so you know, since you guys talked to so many guests, friends and family vouchers that they can get for their friends if they have a season pass, Icon or Winter Park. We've enhanced the system now where they don't have to stand in the lift line or in the ticket line with their friend. They don't have to do it on the day of. They can share it through their profile, the same profile they created when they purchased their pass. They'll be able to send a voucher to a friend who can then log in to whichever resort they're going to. If it's an Icon pass, they send one voucher, but then they can choose wherever they're going to redeem it. And then there will be a process where that guest will receive the voucher and then be able to buy it online. If they buy it from us, if they're coming here and they buy it early enough, it'll follow all the same rules of our regular ticketing, which is more than 10 days out. We mail it to people. So I just wanted to let you know it's just going live now, but it's going to be a really big guest enhancement and frankly a good business thing for us for a couple of reasons. One, we'll get the data from the guests that are the friends. We don't usually get that because it's an anonymous, thank you, transaction at the window historically. But number two, people can share those friends and family even when they're not able to go skiing. So we'll probably see more participation. So anyway, for your guests, I know a lot of you, especially privates and stuff, they're skiing on passes and some of the family members are skiing on friends and family or whatever. You can get that done. They can get that done, not have to stand in a line while they're waiting for their lesson to start. So.
Cool. food and beverage discount is between 25 and 50%. 50% being in Moffett Market only. I'm not actually
That's a
sure.
typo.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's another error. So.
Yeah, corrections for our corrections.
Yeah, I have to do a correction for the correction. But, so basically the bottom line is if it's a sit-down restaurant that we own, it's 25%. If it is a cafeteria style restaurant, it is 50%.
So that includes Sunspot and Snowasis
Sunspot, Snowasis,
and Lunch Rock?
I believe the Bradley's,
Not Lunch Rock.
yeah, not Lunch Rock. Lunch Rock is considered sit-down, even though it's kind of a hybrid. And then I believe Bradley's in town, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but is doing 50% as well out here, as we refer to it, the chicken hut. Cool. Scheduling changes, use the online form to submit schedule change requests. Don't email admin unless you can't access the form. If Flake isn't working, please reach out to admin or your supervisor. You can use the knowledge base. Submitting a help ticket to Flake is kind of a last resort. And then the last one is the level 1 scholarship. You can take that anywhere. It doesn't have to be right here at Winter Park. Cool.
Question that came in, Tony, is are you keeping the called off arrangement? And I think I saw that from a couple of people. Are we going to be doing what we did last year when there's no work available, which I don't think is going to be the same situation?
Yeah, it'll be a lot busier this year for sure. We'll probably call people off less, but yes, we will still call people off if they're not gonna.
Like single.
Yeah, we might even single them. We might text you. Yeah, right now, you're snowballing everybody in. But it's probably gonna be a pretty busy year. I think is that all the corrections that we had?
Anybody got any questions for Tony? We're just gonna go into some training next.
So I have a question that I think will also REO, the COVID policy for if you have COVID symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
said that something along the lines of like all three. So it was like negative test results in 10 days of isolation and something else. It was not clear.
Basically, it's not about according for 10 days regardless of if you tested negative.
So that's not entirely true. So right now, the policy is if you're vaccinated, and there's different policy for vaccinated, unvaccinated, and some of our staff is still not vaccinated or fully vaccinated because they have until December 10th to do so. So if you're vaccinated and you've had exposure to someone who has had the coronavirus, or you have reason to believe that you've had exposure, you do not have to. You don't have to isolate at home, but they do ask you to wear a mask, and they ask you to test 4 or 5 days after you're exposed. If you've been exposed and you're unvaccinated, then you do stay home. And then you wait and you get your test.
I'll agree, Molly, the way that it's written for when it's yes, slightly confusing. And if that policy is now becoming more strict than it was last year, if you are negative with an antigen PCR or whatever, after you not appreciate. Okay. Yeah, it made it sound like all three of those things had to happen, and I think.
No.
Yeah, so you don't need, if you test negative, then that's.
And I'll be completely transparent with you. I think we're still working because it is a little different than last year because there are different things happening. Some people are vaccinated, some people have one shot, some people are fully vaccinated and have a booster, right? So it's all, some people just maybe had COVID and are vaccinated. There's a lot of different situations. So I think HR is working through a lot of that now and trying to, but yeah, just some level of messier than last year. Because last year was really easy because no one was vaccinated, basically.
Well, I'm thinking of like from a school standpoint, right? If your kids can go to school, if they've had symptoms for 20, they go away after 24 hours.
Right.
So that's where I wasn't very clear reading that section.
Yeah, and I think there are some pretty clear COVID signs that you're, like a cough isn't necessarily always going to be COVID, but like loss of taste and smell, probably COVID. All right, there's not very many other.
Well, I think assuming that our policy is the same as it was last year, it sounds like our policy is different from your school's policy. You need to stay home for 10 days, that and you will get tested regardless if you feel better. Okay. So that is the thing.
Yeah.
But a negative test.
Cool. Any other questions before we get into training? All right. Diego, are you doing training?
I am, I'm just trying to figure out it's glitching out a little bit.
Okay.
so.
We're having a bit of a glitch. No one's got a question? We want to tell a funny joke.
How far are you, what percentage are you in staff?
Oh, great question. Dan just asked, what percentage are we at staffing? And right now, Sarah can correct me if I'm wrong, because she has all these numbers, but we're at about 66% of where we want to be. 68%. Yeah, 68%. But that is last year, that's where we want to be is about 125 more instructors than we had last season. So we're very similar to where we were last year, but with the increase of business, we wanted to boost our numbers, but hiring it, of course, has been challenging. So housing has been challenging, although we have added some beds and we still have more opportunity potentially to get some more employee housing. And we've actually had quite a few of our instructors who were successful finding their own place, which we were even surprised about. So it's not as grim out there as maybe people lead us to believe, but actually finding staff to fill those beds has been a little bit more challenging for sure. Any other questions?
Employee housing in the past, we're always a part of the first year employees. Is there going to look at maybe it's like you're the way out situation, maybe extending it to second year employees too, or anything like that?
So, I don't want to put Tony in the hot seat if he has a different policy. But what we've done actually this year, is we've allocated a certain number of beds to every, division, and they can do with them what they want. And some divisions have said, no, I really need the front line that, just to be here. And others have said, no, I got this, supervisor manager that is absolutely critical to the business and I need them there. And so they've done it. I'm not sure if you guys.
Yeah, so our policy has been, we try to get first year instructors in first. And the reason for that is they have no contacts in town. They don't have any friends. They don't have anyone that they can reach out to try to team up and be a resource and roommates with or anything like that. But we have put some rehired instructors in, if we have additional beds, that sort of thing. Right now, majority of our rehires have found places, and we find that that's generally the case. David Wilson is a great example of someone who's not back because he just couldn't find housing, and his situation was a little more complicated because he needed housing not just for himself. He's also obviously a little bit more mature, and we only have shared rooms at this point in employee housing, but he also needed it for his kids as well. So that made it more challenging. So yeah, we would love, and I would love, and I'll tell Tom right here, and I think I've probably already told him, but we would love to have more diverse housing options, right? Where, we do have a spot for David Wilson and his family. And we do have spots for people who are coming to work with us that maybe are past their years of having a roommate in their room with them. But I think that's our goal, and Tom can speak more to, we do have plans for building some employee housing, and I know there's some things in the works with the town as well like that.
Yeah, I'll just add a little to that. Aspen does it really well as an example. They'll have everything from
You gotta come this way.
really the dormitory style stuff all the way to kind of apartment living to even deed restricted stuff. One of the things that we have is, which is, phenomenal in the industry, is we have just an incredibly good relationship with the town of Winter Park. And so I think Sky will often say this, it means really just reiterating what he'd say. Our next housing project that we are doing, we're hoping to do one, I think it may have been on the REO, in FLOT, possibly even breaking ground next summer. The biggest hurdles of that aren't the town of Winter Park or the financing. It's really going to be WPRA, the city of Denver, working through some logistics of complicated arrangement of real estate that the agreement with the city of operating the resort for the city. So that could be the stumbling block, but there is great motivation from Alterra to do that. That'd be more of a, anyone that's been to the Copper Edge, that used to be a Club Med, it would probably be more that style, very dormitory in the room, but with some common spaces for cooking or whatever. So that would probably be the first thing we'll actually do, other than the stuff that we do now, which is, just picking a bunch of properties. All the other levels of housing would probably come through the town of Winter Park, or hopefully someday a housing authority in the county. And they're already, as you know, the complex and some of our resort employees live there, but the complex next to the Fireside Market that's attached there, that was a town project. And then the town has the deed restricted houses that are kind of up there on that street. So I think we'll start seeing more of that from the community, but from the resort, we'll probably focus in on that kind of high volume seasonal stuff, and hope that the rest of the economy fills in that other gap.
Cool. Looks like, are we ready to go, boys?
Okay.
All right. So Jacob's gonna take over for the training.
Hey guys, this will be somewhat short, but we do have a couple things that weren't included in the RISE REO, and one of them was just the rehire training process this year. Besides that online content, we're going to return to doing what we did a couple seasons back before COVID, where we had morning training, and there was multiple options available, and people were required to take 2 of those clinics. The only thing we're going to do differently this year from the past is we're going to offer some online options as well. So if you're not here, or you can't make it to all these, or you prefer online, you'll be able to take pretty much the same content through a RISE training. These 4 topics here, the outlines might have changed a little bit from what they were 2 years ago, but these were things that we came up with based on guest feedback and instructor feedback and supervisor feedback on things that we all identified as the areas for greatest improvement, the things that would really improve the guest and employee experience. So the start splits and wrap-ups, those are things because people describe not feeling like they got into a lesson in an organized fashion, or that they just weren't in the right lesson. And then at the end of the day, they didn't really know what to do next, or how to kind of feel like they should get on the snow themselves and what they should work on. And that is a minority of feedback that guests gave us, but it was the things that we highlighted. So we feel like if we can support instructors with those elements of a lesson, we can really bring up those net promoter scores and employee experience scores. Trained advancement, that one comes from a little bit more of our supervisor observations, and some guest feedback as well. People will say that they were on a run that was too easy or too hard, but basically knowing when it's time to move on, and learning some tips and tricks for how to see that your students are really ready for something, rather than getting up to the Jack Hendrick area and then realizing you should have stayed in disco and worked on some skills. The kids teaching tactics, we have for years, and this is a industry-wide challenge, have had people who just don't feel particularly comfortable working with the younger age groups, or it's a particular age group of kids. They might be really comfortable with the little guys, but then they don't feel as set up for success when they go to teach the teenagers, for instance. So that'll be a great way to kind of broaden your ability to teach different age groups of kids. And class management, for anybody who started here last year, you had probably one of the easiest seasons from the standpoint of guest numbers in your classes. Like Tony said before, we're not going to go back to those old days of having like double digits, but we will have bigger classes than we had in the past, and we'd like to set you guys up for success there. And then just general things about how to keep your class together. We do realize that there's some concerns about all looking like somebody's dad in a blue jacket, and people won't be able to find their instructor, but we feel like we can help you guys out with skills to keep your class together, to keep them from getting separated, and also just different ways to move them around, and teaching style sort of stuff. Next slide, Diego. So the rehire training will start sooner, and those are in the calendar right now. You guys can sign up for that. Morning training is also going to come back in addition to the team slides that we did last year. Those things will be, kind of more of a generic skier improvement, snowboard improvement, kids teaching improvement stuff. Team slides are just your chance to get out and just get as many runs in as you can. Lori Talbot likes to go for 5 as much as possible. So, we'll try to just have fun with you guys. And generally, there'll always be 2 of those team slides per day. The clinics this season are going to be 45 minutes long. That's because a lot of people will have to have a 15-minute break before they make it to their earliest possible assignment, like a private or an adult lineup, or I guess a kids lineup. And then the morning training stuff will also, be based on how many people we have available. So sign up for it. You can't just show up. We did a really good job of that last year. Make sure you're registered and Flake. And then except for mandatory training, we have to be in uniform. All types of training are usually out of uniform. This is the exception. We are not paying for these types of morning training clinics unless it's the rehire stuff, but you will have to be in uniform so we can get on the lift early before the general public. And so we're identifiable to the lift department and that sort of stuff.
So the team slide, I just want to, team slides will be led by our leadership team. So it's your supervisor, managers, I'll be leading team slide. So not only is it a good time to go out and just ski around and get a few runs in before you teach, but it's also a great time if you want to connect with your supervisor or me or Jacob or anyone else who's leading. So
we'll have 2 groups of that for different ability levels and different desires. So hopefully we'll have a group that can, go and ski bash, and there'll be always a group that can handle kind of a frambler. That way we don't have to worry about thinking where do we go for safety sort of things. And then the professional development stuff, the things that are supposed to just be helpful to you in your job or just fun, learning a new discipline, maybe just getting through at the mountain. Those types of things will start up in early January. Traditionally, all the good training options are going to be after the winter break ends. The only exception to that is if you are in a certification pod. Those will start in mid-December. Sweet. We can turn the lights back on, and there might be a couple questions there. I don't know, Diego, can you see if the questions are coming up? Nothing. Sweet. Does anybody have any questions here, just in general or about training?
cool. Well, thank you, everybody, for choosing to work here. Thanks for coming tonight. If you have things that you want to talk to us about that you didn't want to ask in front of everybody, come see us. Our doors are always open. So thanks for coming.
Snack chair. Snack chair.
That worked out better than I thought it would, actually. Only have to have 3 screens. Yeah, I mean, we're just gonna